You wild beast, you want some more hardware videos? I've got some more left over. You know, without activation, you can't change your desktop wallpaper. You can't come in and customize your taskbar. You can't access any of this stuff here. You'll not be able to change to the dark theme, which is extremely important to me. Some of the other new features through Windows Update you won't get, so you definitely do want to activate. Today's content is brought to you by bobkeys.com. This is where I buy my Windows 10 keys, and every now and then I'll snag a game or something, but I just bought my 7th Windows 10 key here for Windows 10 Professional. You're going to get 25% off the prices you see here using coupon code TS25. So this is Windows 10 Pro, 25% off that. You want Windows 10 Home? Also, if you want to get a bundle with Microsoft Office and Windows 10, you can get that. Got all kinds of things, 2019, there's lots and lots of things. Oh, this is a double 2PC. After you purchase your key, you just click up here, click on User Center. You click on My Purchased Orders. Just click on View Keys and Codes. Then in the middle of the page, you'll see your product key. Just highlight that. You're going to want to copy this, then press the Start button on your computer, and then type Activate. You'll see activation settings. Just go ahead and click on that and change product key. Paste it here, then click Next, and you will be activated. So again, thanks to bobkeys.com, TS25, head over there. The links are all on the top of the description. Shot this one a while ago and realized I hadn't talked about it yet, so we're gonna look at the Mobiuz monitor from BenQ. This is the Mobiuz EX2710. 27-inch monitor, and I think they put the most important specs right in the title. It does more than the title says, but 1 millisecond response time with an IPS display at 144 Hertz, those are the three big things for me. It also features Freesync Premium, which will give you that upper end. It doesn't cut off at a certain point as well. Now for me, if you're someone who is not familiar with Freesync, what it does is it locks the refresh rate of your monitor to the output of your GPU. So if you're playing a game at 75 or 80 FPS, your monitor is going to refresh 75 or 80 times per second. It'll match up to the the frequency of your game, and that'll give you really smooth results when you're playing a game. Now, a lot of people, if you're playing competitive FPS, a lot of people are going to want to turn that off and just use the monitor as is, because typically if you're under 144 Hertz, you're not really going to see a lot of screen tearing. Maybe in some instances you will, but it's really about when your game is spitting out way more frames than your monitor can deal with. It just doesn't know what to do, so the bottom half of the frame won't line up with the top half of the frame, and Freesync will take care of that. But for a lot of gamers, I would recommend trying it with it off first, because sometimes Freesync can give you a tiny bit of input latency or input lag, but it's like some people notice it, some people don't. The biggest point of latency or lag in the entire chain is typically the human involved. Sorry, you guys are slow. What do you want? Get good. Get good. All right, let's talk about the monitor. That's what we're here to do, right? So there's a lot of marketing and a lot of fancy features behind the Mobiuz stuff, and a lot of it's cool, but some of it's like, whatever. So I'm going to cover what I think is cool, tell you what I think is whatever, and then tell you what I think of the overall quality of this monitor. If you're just watching right now and you want to know if this is like the monitor you should get or not, maybe depending on the your price point. 1080p is my main gripe with this, because at 27 inches, I do like 1440p better. However, if you're only gaming, 1080p does look and run really well. So if you're doing a mixture of gaming and productivity, maybe look for a 1440p monitor with similar specs and expect to pay a little more. If you're just gaming, these specs and this image quality is amazing. So that's my quick review. Now let's get a little deeper into this. So this monitor also has HDR. And like I said, it wasn't in the title, so I said the main things were in the title, but HDR, and it also has HDRi, which is a technology they've worked on. So the way HDRi works is there's actually sensors inside the monitor that will detect the lighting situation that's going on in the room. It's like intelligent control, they call it. And then it gives you stunning clarity and vivid colors. I'm reading their marketing stuff right now off my screen, but it's kind of an interesting technology that will boost the contrast in some darker areas based upon the situation and the room that you're in. Now, I found that the HDRi, there's different modes. There's like a game mode, a theater mode, and that sort of thing. I found the game mode was the least harsh. I find sometimes the HDR modes, especially simulated HDR, which this monitor will do, I find that a lot of times it just bumps up the you know, the contrast and the vibrancy too much. It's like a dad when he first discovered that he could edit photos in Photoshop, and he's like, whoa, I could just pull the saturation way up. Look how good that looks. Boom, it just pops. So I feel like we're, you know, getting into a little bit of that where it just you turn the color to 11 and just make your eyes bleed with so much color. That's what I feel like with a lot of the simulated HDR, and sometimes with the HDRi it can look really good, and sometimes it looks a little bit just too much. You know, it's like, okay, where's the subtlety? Where's the softness and stuff like that? So the beauty with that is you can turn it on or off, and you can do it based upon the situation. And if you have a game that supports HDR, like more and more games now are, this monitor, when you have HDR turned on, will just kick into the HDR modes. And one of the things that I do love about this is the display. There is a really quick way for you to just reach around to the back of the monitor. There's a little button, and it has two different menus. It's got one quick menu that pops up and lets you change your display input. It also lets you change your HDR mode and your color mode very quickly without having to mess around and go into like the full menu. Not your backlight. You can change your light tuner, which is something a little different than HDRi. It has the function that allows you to brighten up the dark areas, especially if you're playing like a super dark game. You'll be able to see more details in the shadowy areas. So that's what the light tuner does. It kind of can make things a little bit washed out, but if you're looking to cheat, get that little extra, you know, I guess benefit of being able to see your enemies before they do in the darkness, then maybe that's cool. But, you know, it's really handy to be able to just reach around and change things. And then if you wanted to go into the full menu, you can go ahead and do that. But a lot of times most of the stuff I need is just right there. It even has something like if you're trying to like super save your eyesight, you can do like a, what's it called? Like a e-screen mode or an e-ink mode. I forget what it's called. Let's see if I can find it. Go through the color mode, you blackguard. I'm looking at my old video here. You know, get your HDR, your HDRi game mode and Cinema HDRi. Get your FPS mode, RPG mode, racing game mode, super vibrant, standard mode, and then we also have the M-Book mode. So there's lots of different modes, and then also this does have the eyeball saving features as they're advertised. Your eye saving features. So as the marketing goes with most monitors these days, is your eyes are going to fall right out of your head if you stare at your monitor, especially after the sun goes down. That blue light will zap into your brain and destroy it. There's no actual science that says that it will do your eyes harm to look at a screen like this, but there is science saying that the blue light can interrupt your circadian rhythms and thus make it harder for you to sleep. Take your phone and get it out of your bedroom. That's number one thing for me. But also you do want to start winding down to have a better night's sleep. I know a lot of people are not sleeping that well these days. Probably just the state of the world, right? But it is nice to wind down. Now Windows has recently introduced this as a feature. And there's also third-party applications you can get on Windows and Linux. I have no idea what Mac's doing. I imagine they're doing the same thing where you can set a time period during the day where it starts to give your picture more red, more orange, and less of the blue light so that you can, it's just a little easier on your eyes at nighttime. So there's that option as well. So I think this is going to be something like the eye care stuff, that a lot of that's going to be built into the operating system soon, and it'll be sort of a moot feature. But right now it's still something that a lot of companies are heavily marketing for. All right, so monitor looks amazing, runs great, it's got FreeSync, it's got your HDR. Oh, by the way, if you're curious about the HDR implementation, it's HDR 400, so barely HDR. And if you've seen HDR 1000 or something like that, it's night and day different. But it'll give you the base implementation of HDR, and it does have pretty good colors. In practice, once you look at the screen, you're like, okay, it looks pretty good. For me, I still end up using the monitor just with the standard default because I like a softer look. I'm not too wild about the vibrant colors and stuff. Maybe I'm just too into 90s anime. I don't know. So there's the light tuner, which will brighten things up a little bit, but then there's the black equalizer, and I'm not sure if they are exactly the same thing or not. I think the black equalizer it like intelligently looks at the scene and like this area is really dark, so it brightens up that without actually overexposing the rest of the scene. So it's an interesting feature if you're a cheater. All right, so this also has Crevolo audio. It's always more fun when you say it that way and do this. Crevolo. I don't know where it's from. So the Crevolo audio is just it's better audio than I've heard in most monitors. We'll put it that way. And it does have a little bit of sparkle at the top, which was kind of surprising. Normally these things are just mostly mid-range speakers that give you pretty decent clarity in the voice, not a lot of bass, and not a lot of balance on the top as far as giving you just that little extra sparkle that makes things sound good. So they usually sound a little cheap. This one doesn't sound as cheap. So there's that. Doesn't have a lot of bass, and it's not going to be something I would recommend for gamers and stuff. But there are people out there who want to use a monitor without speakers. I don't know where they are, but I see them in the comments. I see you that say, like, I don't have a lot of desk space. I just use it for watching YouTube videos, and I use the speakers. So this will be okay for you. It's going to sound fairly decent, and the mid-range is a little smoother than most. So you do hear the vocals, but you hear that little crisp, sparkle on top. So it sounds okay to me. Again, it's monitor speakers. That's the caveat. We're still monitor speakers. As much as we want to pretend that it's something fancy, it's still a good monitor speaker. All right, so the stand itself is pretty decent, actually. It hooks on. You have a Visa mount beyond where the stand is going to go, but it hooks on with a one touch. You could just easily take the monitor off if you need to do that. There's really a lot of room on this stand for the monitor to move up and down, which is nice because I like to have the monitor up a little bit so that I'm not craning my neck down. You want to be able to look more head on at your monitor. And then you can also tilt and pivot, but we don't have a swivel really on this because there's not enough room to run this as a portrait. But again, if you get in this monitor, there's a 97.98579% chance that you're going to be using this as a primary monitor. This is not a secondary monitor. It's the prime time, unless you got 3 of them, which you can do because the bezel is very thin. It's not completely gone. It's a tiny bit there. So if you're running 3 of them, you will see a black line around the side, but it's pretty good. Now, the other thing about the stand is we have a singular sort of triangular design that goes down. It doesn't have like 3 little pegs or anything like that. It's got one triangular thing that goes down, and I think it looks pretty sleek. It does have the gamer aggressive edges and angles and stuff like that. And then just to make sure that this is a gaming device. So do I recommend this monitor? Yeah, I recommend this monitor. If you care about the main 3 specs, the IPS display, which gives you better colors, better viewing angles, way better than TN. It's rare to get a 1 millisecond IPS display that looks this good. And also 144 hertz is extremely nice with the full-on Freesync Premium. So I recommend it for those specs. I got to be honest, I could take or leave the HDR or the HDRi myself, but if you're someone who really wants that extra vibrance and that extra saturated look, it's impossible for you to see how it looks on this because I didn't shoot this with an HDR camera, and you're not going to have, unless you already have a upgraded to HDR monitor, you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. So you have to kind of see the HDR in person to decide if it's something that you like or not, and you can just take my word for it. If you like 90s anime, then it's probably not that big of a deal, but if you like the brand new anime with all the bright colors, then maybe you'll like it. It's like, that's the thing. And then as far as the other features go, the Crevolo audio, you're going to pay a little extra for that. The price is not too high, but you're paying for that. If you're never going to use the monitor's audio, then what are you paying for it for? Why? If you don't need it, then it's there, but you're paying for it whether you use it or not. And then there's the light tuner and all that stuff. All these little things, and then the eye care package. Now that Windows can do that natively, so it's like you're going to pay for features that you may or may not use. And that's the real thing for me is, do you need all this stuff? There's other monitors out there that don't have as many features, but they still have 144 hertz, 1 millisecond response times, or 2 millisecond response times, something that's pretty good like that for the gray to gray. And you just have to ask yourself, do you want to spend that, or can you find a better deal? I'm not going to look online right now for all the different deals on monitors, but this one does have a lot of boxes. It does have a nice stand, and if it's one of the better ideas in its price range, then yeah, go for it. If you find another reputable brand with similar features and good reviews that maybe doesn't have some of the extra stuff like eye care and stuff, not as good of audio or speakers or whatever, and it's $50 cheaper, then it's going to be hard for me to tell you to do that versus this, or this versus that. You know what I mean? So you got to make your own decision, but know that BenQ is making some of the best monitors right now. So I'm kind of giving it a yes, pretty good, yeah, pretty much endorsement. But at the same time, you know, take a look and see what else there is if you're not going to use all the features. That's the bottom line. Oh, well, yeah, for people who want to play this on PlayStation and Xbox and all that sort of thing, it will support 120 FPS for the 2 or 3 games that will actually support that. I'm sure a lot of games will support 1080p 120. It's the 4K 120 that everyone's going crazy about. That's like, yeah, there's like 3 games that'll be able to do that, and they look like Fortnite. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. There will not be many more hardware videos on this channel, so maybe a couple more that are left over that I'm going to be throwing up. If you want to hang out, I will be streaming. It's Midnight Dojo over on Twitch, or just follow on Twitter or something like that. There's links in the description for all this stuff. There's also going to be links in the description for the current price on this monitor. If this monitor is on sale, yes, you might want to grab it. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I don't feel like talking anymore. I'll see you guys in the comments. And thanks to BenQ for sending over this monitor for my inspection. Yes. Goodbye, everybody.